don't make it weird.
Okay.
Unless you want to make it weird.
I always make it weird. When do I not make it think weird?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And welcome back to another episode of B Movie Bash.
B Movie Bash.
My name is Shannon.
I'm Alyssa.
And boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Do we have a fun movie today?
Okay. Was this one of the recommendations?
It was recommended from the Spooky page.
Okay.
So someone named Courtney Elizabeth suggested it. So thank you, Courtney, if you listen.
Thanks, Courtney.
Maybe I'll go back and tag her and be like, we did this movie. So I dipped my toe back into the world of Greek pledging with this movie.
All right.
But if you think it's going to go in the same direction as Pledge Night, you're correct, but also very, very wrong.
Okay. So people die, but not... Okay.
But also what the actual fuck?
Okay.
Okay. So this movie probably has the best title of any movie I've ever heard in my life.
I'm excited for this.
Ready?
What is it? Yes.
Maybe I hyped it up a little too much, but it's called Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama.
What?
Yes. What does that mean? Dunno. Couldn't tell you. Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama.
Okay.
Bowling Bowl-O-Rama.
A Bowl-O-Rama.
Yeah.
And that has to do with the movie?
Bowling kind of does.
Okay.
Slimeball? No idea.
Okay.
So...
All right.
Yeah. So this movie came out in 1988. So right at the same time as Pledge Night. Primo 1980s garbage movies, apparently.
Okay.
There's nobody that I recognize in this movie. But apparently one of the main girls, her name is Linnea Quigley. I don't know if you've heard of her.
No.
Okay. So
Quigley kind of sounds familiar. Did we go to school with a Quigley?
I don't think so. There's a movie called Quigley Down Under.
Nope, never heard
That's
of that.
That's a good one.
Nope.
You hear that, Tony? It's a good one, okay? You showed me a movie and it was good, okay? But so Linnea Quigley has been in almost 200 different credits to her name on IMDb, and they're all old 80s horror movies.
Okay.
So apparently she's one of the founding scream queens is what they call them, the horror movie girls from the 80s and 70s.
Maybe that's why that sounds familiar.
Maybe. She's been in I think it was Night of the Living Dead that she was also in.
Oh.
Yeah. So she's been in a lot of horror movies.
Okay, I like Night of the Living Dead.
And my thing is, I don't know if it was just this movie, because she's supposed to be a sarcastic, badass girl. Mm-hmm. So I can't tell if she's just trying to play that up too much, or if she's actually a really, really, really bad actress.
Okay.
Because her line delivery made me want to drive a nail through my forehead.
Okay.
I have a few examples and hopefully I can do it justice, but she drove me nuts.
Okay.
And all of the lines that she had, they were well, we want to make her sound tough, so let's throw in swear words everywhere we can.
Okay.
It's that kind of a thing. But yeah, she was not my favorite. And the rest of the actors weren't good either. But
when did this come out?
88.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama.
Yes.
So the opening for this movie is credits, which, we all know and love.
Yes.
And I feel like it's just a staple for 80s movies.
It really is.
2 minutes of credits.
Okay.
Okay? Which, again, doesn't sound long, but in movie time is a long time.
It's such a long time.
Yeah. And I just loved, it was a black screen with hot pink text and synthy piano music behind it. So I was I already feel I'm just plopped right back down in the 80s, even though I wasn't there in the first place. But, it was fun.
It was fun.
So then we open on 3 nerdy college guys who are hanging out. And I'm not sure if they are in a fraternity or if they are just friends. Because it doesn't really say. But then we also talk a lot about sororities. So I just wasn't sure if there was that back and forth, But anyway, so 3 nerdy guys. One of them's name is Calvin, and he's sitting on the floor watching a horror movie. The second one's name is Keith, and he is laying on his bed looking at a Penthouse magazine. Because of course he is.
Because what else do you do when you're hanging out with other friends of yours?
And he was talking out loud to the porn. He was oh baby, you've got it all. I'm your friends.
Yeah.
Are in the
right
room.
There.
Yeah.
It's not they're looking at it with you.
No.
It's not you're trying to be secretive about...
No, you're just hanging out looking at a porno mag.
That's not I don't think any guy actually does that. If any guys actually do that, you're weird.
Or
that's why girls don't sleep with you.
So comfortable with yourself, I guess. But
I mean, no judgment, but a little bit of judgment. So
And then, so Calvin and Keith, and then their third friend, Jimmy, who is like lounging on a chair, and he has a couple of like cans of beer on his lap, and then like a pile of chips on his chest.
Okay.
And he's the fat one.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
So there's like the two nerdy ones in glasses, and the fat one, because they have to be outcasts.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, because fat ones can only ever hang out with nerdy ones.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
so.
they can't be like cool.
Yeah.
At all.
Whatever.
No. But yeah, so they're all hanging out, and like I said, Keith starts like talking out loud to his magazine, like, oh yeah, this girl, blah, blah, blah. And Jimmy's like, okay, well, just take it on to the bathroom, but watch out for the staples, buddy. Like, ha, 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 you know, whatever. And they kind of like give each other shit back and forth for a minute.
See, they didn't even want to be in the room for that. So like,
no, I don't understand.
You're weird.
I have
dude.
no idea. But yeah, Keith basically yells at Jimmy about like his magazine and stuff. And Jimmy's like, well, at least I've been with more than a magazine. Ha ha ha. And Keith is like, well, at least I don't get my girls from the dog pound. Ha ha ha. Like, so they're setting up some great relationships here.
Yes.
And then he just randomly is like, hey, are you going to drink all those beers yourself? Why don't you pass one over to me? And Jimmy's like, well, what's it worth to you? Like, this is a great friendship.
It's a great friendship.
Yeah. So Keith says that he knows where the Tri Delta sorority is having their initiation tonight.
Oh.
And that they might be able to watch. And he's like, okay, well, let's do it, man. That sounds great. And he's like, okay, well, it starts at midnight and I've got the perfect place to watch. And then Jimmy's like, well, what do you think they're going to do? And Keith is like, I don't know, but Babs is in charge, so you know she's going to have them bending over. Then Jimmy's like, I would like to bend her over. So this is how this movie's going.
Their comedy is outstanding.
Yeah.
So
we love boy toilet humor.
I love I like dirty jokes. I can handle a good dirty joke, but it has to be a good dirty joke.
Yeah. And like this is one of those movies where like you can tell they didn't film a bunch of takes or with multiple camera angles because it's just like long shots with weird pauses. Yeah. Like they
had the one camera.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So then we see the outside of the girls' sorority house, and then it goes inside, and we see these three sisters who are getting ready for the initiation. And there's Babs, Rhonda, and Frankie.
Okay.
And Frankie is like fussing with her hair, and she's like, do we have to wear these hoods? It's gonna mess up my hair. And Babs is like, well, your hair's already messed up, and besides, it's tradition, and, you know, of course. We have to get ready for the ceremony. And Rhonda's like, well, I just don't understand why we have to wear these dumb robes and these hoods. It's just doing terrible things for my skin. And I was like, okay, so facetious.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Also, what? Your robes are doing what to your skin?
For your skin, yeah.
What?
And your hood that doesn't touch your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
If
I get the hair part.
Yeah, if it's messing with your skin, you're allergic to something, child. Like
yes, that is true. But she was touching her face the whole time. She was like, "Oh, my skin," which it kind of makes sense later. Like they play into it. But we'll get into that.
Okay.
But I just was kind of like when you're first watching it, you're like, "Okay, bitches."
Yeah,
like relax.
All right.
But Babs says that it's part of the ceremony, it's part of the tradition, and sisters have been doing it for years and whatnot. And one of the girls is like, "It sounds like we're devil worshippers," and Babs is like, "Well, maybe we are." Yeah, and then Frankie's like, I think you just like paddling girls' fannies. We just have to call her Babs the Dominatrix. I was like, what is where are we going with this? Okay.
I really thought that it was, more of the fraternities that were doing the paddling, not the sororities.
Nope.
So
apparently not.
Okay, not in this Slimeball one.
No. So they fuss with their hair and stuff for another minute, and then they're like, ready, girls? And they lick their thumbs and touch their butts and do like the sizzle, like, tss, like they're hot shit.
Right.
So, also, they're all like in their 30s.
Oh.
Like, I looked it up, and they are definitely way too old to be playing college students. So then we go back to the guys in their room, and the two guys ask Kelvin, who was watching the movie, if he wants in on this. Like, you want to go to the peep show? Ha ha ha. And he's like, no, I'm not really like into sadomasochism. I'll just stay back and watch my movie. And they like keep trying to talk him into it, and he's like, well, the girls are gonna get paddled, and last year this girl with great boobs had to wear a bra with worms in it, and she had to do push-ups, deep push-ups. I'm like, what? Why is that? Why are initiations so fucking weird? I don't know.
Why would that be hot?
Maybe he got to see the boobs at some point. I don't know. But Yeah, he was like, I'm not into sadomasochism. And they were like, are you into naked girls? And he was like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess, you know. And so they give him a beer to make him, you know, brave and get him on board and whatever. And he grabs this can of beer like he's never seen a beer before in his life. And like he really doesn't want to drink it. And then he opens the pull tab with his teeth.
Oh, that hurts my teeth.
I hated it so much. So he like takes a swig and he like doesn't want to swallow it, and he looks like it's the nastiest beer in the world, which it probably was.
Worse than blueberry beer.
Right. Blueberry ale, my friends. Not even once.
Don't. Just never.
Yeah, his friends were like, it'll put hair on your chest. It'll be a good time. Ha ha ha. So we're back outside the sorority house, and we see the guys creeping up to the house. But Calvin is a little bit drunk from this one beer, and so he's like being loud and like stumbling all over the place. So they sneak up to the house, and then we see the living room where these two girls, Lisa and Taffy.
Taffy. Okay.
And they're sitting in the living room, and it's all dark, but there's like candles lit on the tables and stuff, and they're going back and forth, and Taffy is like, why are we putting up with this? Like, why are we doing this initiation? This is so dumb. And Lisa's like, well, we want to get in the fraternity if we want to go anywhere in college. Like, we have to do this. This is the sorority to join. And as they're chatting, the three sorority sisters walk in, and Babs is like, you were told not to speak unless you were spoken to, so now you must be punished.
I mean, in one of their defenses, the other girl did speak to her. So
that is true.
The one should just be punished.
True.
So,
but she still spoke back.
Yes. But still.
Yeah. But so they stand up off the couch, and they are in underwear and like cut off crop tops, but like they only barely cover the boobs. So it's like, what, 5 inches of fabric?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. 80s, man.
80s, man.
Yeah. They walk over to Babs, and she tells them to assume the position, which apparently every 80s person just knows what that is. And like, yep. So they bend over the couch, and she starts paddling them. But it was so bad. Like, every time she hit them, there was like a delay in like their reaction. So it was like, oh! Ah! Like, they were the weirdest noises, too. I was like, you didn't even go for sex noises here? Like, it was truly like, ouch! It's like, okay. Yep. So the guys creep up, and they're watching through the window, and they decide they want a better view, so they're going to sneak inside.
Oh.
Yeah. So they sneak around, and while they're sneaking around the house, we can still hear the girls getting paddled from the outside of the house. And it goes on for 2 minutes. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
It's not like, here's 10 paddles or whatever, you know, like, it's,
we're
that's
gonna
a
paddle
long
you
time.
for 2 minutes? Like, holy shit.
Yeah, that would hurt.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
So they sneak into the kitchen, and they're watching through, like, a window. It's like a kitchen door in a restaurant, like a back kitchen door that has like the window so you can see who's coming in and out. That was in the house.
Okay.
Once they're done being paddled, they stand up, and Rhonda's like, it's time for a little whipped cream delight. That'll cool you down. And one of them's like, what are you talking about? And they literally just pull out 2 cans of like Ready Whip and spray them on the chest and stomach. And the girls are just like, I'm just like, what are we doing? Who are we servicing here?
Yeah, like what?
I hate it.
This is like they knew that they were being filmed for this. Like this is a bad porno is what this is.
Well, that's another thing is I'm not exactly sure how self-aware it is in its cliches or if it's truly just like a bad 80s film. I can't quite tell.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it was truly trying to be a horror movie. So they get whipped cream sprayed on them. And Rhonda tells them to go shower and clean up, and then they'll have the last part of their initiation.
Okay.
So the girls walk off, and as they walk away, Babs is like, Rhonda, I get to decide what the last of the initiation is, okay? I'm in charge. Like, okay, Babs.
Okay, Babs.
She didn't say what it was.
Yeah.
She didn't decide for you. Like, relax. It was just very hostile. I was like, okay.
Is Babs the actress from the...
No.
Oh, okay.
We haven't met her yet.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, Frankie makes another comment on the robes. Like, she pulls down her hood and she's like, it is just murder on my hair. Like, look at my hair. It's like, okay. We get it.
Well, you know, you taking it on and off over and over again probably is not helping. So,
right?
you know.
Yeah. And, like, it just had so many awkward transitions, too, where, like, Frankie would be like, oh, it's just murder on my hair. And then she would, like, pause for a second. And then she would be like, hey, Babs, why were you so intense with all that paddling and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's not how natural conversations go.
No.
That's weird. But yeah, she's like, you gave more than we ever got. Like, we never had it this bad. And Babs was like, I haven't even begun. Like, evil laugh.
Okay, so someone's a sadist.
Right? And then Frankie's like, you should consider prison work. You'd be brutal Babs, the wicked warden. And then Rhonda and Frankie, like, put out their fingers and, like, laugh at each other and, like, wiggle their fingers at each other. And I was like, okay, this is a real relationship for sure.
This was written for the stage. I am like 1,000% certain.
Yeah,
so,
right.
A middle school stage play with way too much boobs. So
way too much boobs. Speaking of boobs, in the next scene, we are shown the girls upstairs, and Taffy is in the shower washing the whipped cream off of her, while Lisa is brushing her hair naked in front of the mirror, as you do.
As you do.
The dumb thing about this shower is that it is a clawfoot tub with no shower curtain, and the shower is like a detachable shower head. So she's just like standing up in this clawfoot tub, like washing herself off.
With no curtain?
No curtain.
That's how you slip and die.
Yep.
I mopped my floor for like 2 seconds the other day and I almost slipped and died. Like, and it was almost dry.
Yeah. And with a detachable head, like, you're sure to make a mess.
Oh, you're going to make a mess.
And I was just like, I know you want us to see everything, but come on. Also, we did see everything. Full frontal in this movie.
Okay.
Yes, a couple times.
See, that thing is, like, that's really funny to me that's happening, like, in so many of the movies that we're watching. Where I'm
80s,
like,
man.
Yeah.
Well, and then cheap porn.
Porn, yep.
Yep.
They did it in House Shark, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the girl, when she sat on the toilet.
Oh, right.
I saw it all.
Right.
Well, not fully. Like, thank you for that.
Enough of it all.
Enough of it all.
So the girls are going back and forth about not wanting to be tortured anymore by Babs, and then Lisa's like, but we have to for the sorority and, you know, all the things, and please, we have to do it. And so Taffy agrees to, like, see what the final initiation is before she runs away screaming. And as they're talking, the boys have crept up the stairs and they're peeking through the cracked bathroom door.
They're just, like,
in the house.
into this house?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And my favorite was that, like, the door is only cracked, so it makes sense, but they had their heads stacked on one another like you would in a cartoon. So it just kind of made me laugh. So yeah, they are watching, and it takes a very long time for Taffy to rinse the whipped cream off of her body. Like, way too long. Standing in the shower, thank you very much. So Babs comes up the stairs, and she sees the guys peeking through the bathroom door.
Any normal person would be able to catch someone in their house like that.
Yeah. So she comes up behind them, she sneaks up on one of them and paddles one so that they all fall into the bathroom. And, you know, the girls cover themselves and are, like, freaking out or whatever. And then the next time we see them, they're downstairs in the living room and they're fully dressed. And the three boys are sitting on the couch. And Babs is like, what am I going to do to punish you guys? Like, I could kill you if I wanted to. It would be super easy. I was like, okay.
Or you could call the police.
Right. Like... But then, listen to this lovely line that made me want to punch her lights out.
Okay.
We could easily claim self-defense and say that 3 crazed rapists broke into our house. And then, like, laughed maniacally.
Oh my gosh, I hate that.
Yeah.
Like,
bitch. Like, men have a hard enough time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, sure, you didn't know fully what they were doing.
That is true.
They could have gone in that bathroom at any point, but no, they weren't. They were just peeking through the door. So clearly, they're just pervs. I mean, I'm not saying it's okay to creep into people's, like, houses and do shit like that.
There's a big step between peeping Tom and
rapist. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, lady, like, I hate you already. So Babs says that she's decided what the final initiation will be. So the girls have to break into the bowling alley at the mall.
Okay.
And bring back a trophy as proof that they were there. And the boys are going to help them.
Okay.
And at first, Jimmy is like, so you're going to punish us for breaking in here by making us break into somewhere else. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then Keith, who's sitting next to him, is like, we get to help these poor defenseless girls. Like, shut the fuck up, man. And so Jimmy's like, oh yeah, let the crime fit the punishment. It's, yeah.
Oh yeah,
great.
because, you know, these girls that you were totally peeping on are now suddenly going to be so grateful you helped them get into sorority that they'll bang you.
Yes.
Like,
and that's the funny part is both Lisa and Taffy are both like, we're not going anywhere alone with these creepy, sleazy scumbag men. But Babs is like, you either do it or you're not in the sorority. Like, there are so many times I would have been like, all right, fuck y'all.
Yeah, fuck y'all then.
I don't want to be in the sorority.
It's like, okay, so first of all, let me get this straight here. So there's some guys that broke into our house that we should be calling the police on to report this as sexual harassment, not only breaking and entering. Second, you want to cover up their crime for them, so aiding and abetting, and not allow us to press charge. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you want us to go break the law. There's a lot happening in here, and this sorority could get shut down real fast with one phone call.
Oh, yeah. Like, so Babs reminds them of, getting into the sorority, and Taffy's like, no, I'm not going to do it. Like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And Lisa, like, hands up, was, like, begging her to do this with her because she just wants to get into the sorority so bad.
Please.
I know. I was like, okay. So the group all leaves because Taffy agrees to go. And they walk out, and Frankie, I think it is, was like, so what is this, weird initiation about? Like, what are you doing with this? Because apparently they had no idea what she was talking about. And she was like, well, did you forget that my daddy owns that mall? So we can get in super easy and watch them from the security cameras and scare the shit out of them. I was like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then she was like, and then when they don't bring back the trophy, which we won't let happen, I'll come up with another punishment. A painful punishment.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what?
Somebody's daddy never told them no ever once in their life.
Right? So as the group is driving over, we are like watching them drive in the car. And the girls are like asking how they're going to break into this place. And Keith is like, oh, I can totally pick locks with a bobby pin. And Jimmy's like, that's only in movies. Like, no, you can't. You're an idiot. And then one of the girls is like, well, what about like burglar alarms? Like, what if we set off something? And Keith is like, oh, I can totally set that off with like a wire hanger. Like, no problem. And Jimmy's like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
You're dumb. And they just kind of go back and forth. And Keith is like, listen up, fat guy. And Jimmy's like, I'm listening, geek. I was like, why are you friends? Why?
Yeah.
I don't understand that dynamic.
Were they literally the only people that they could sit by at the lunchroom table?
Maybe.
Because you can get better friends than that.
Yeah. And then in the middle of this, Calvin, who is in the back seat, like leans out the window to throw up because he's so drunk after that one beer. Constitution of one. And then we see the sorority sisters open up one of the doors with her daddy's keys and make their way through the mall. And they keep like pretending to sneak and like shush each other. But then also they're like giggling and squealing and like whooping and like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what happens. And ha ha ha, shh, 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 shh. Like, be quiet or don't.
Just
like,
shut up, all of you.
What? Just
all of you,
it.
shut up.
It was so annoying. Like, you're not sneaking. So the girls walk down the hallway, and the security room is directly across from, like, a janitor's closet, I think, or maybe an office. I'm not quite sure what it was. Because I watched this on YouTube, which means the quality was terrible, and, like, it was super dark. But as they are walking down the hall, a custodian...
Okay, so they had this on YouTube?
Yeah. There was a warning. You had to, like, click through to be, like, good. Adult content.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just someone uploaded it.
Okay.
It wasn't, like, you can rent it. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
So they're walking down this hall, and the custodian has, like, his door open, and he's standing in the doorway doing something. And they push past him and close the door because they didn't realize he was there, and he gets locked in.
Okay. So they just lock a custodian into his closet?
Yeah, and he, like, it shows him trying to open the door, but it's stuck.
Oh.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
We'll come back to him, don't worry.
Okay.
So we see the group pull up to the mall now, and Calvin gets out and throws up again. And it's just, like, the most fake, like, blah, 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 kind of noises. And I was like, you can't even, like, pretend to throw up.
Put something in your mouth and throw that up.
Right.
Like,
something. Like, it was just so bad.
Yeah. I have to say, honestly, I'm glad they didn't show that. I hate when they show that
it's
in
nasty.
movies. Like, it makes me want to throw up, and I'm like, I could sit there and watch the entire movie of people getting ripped apart and, like, their organs eaten, but the second somebody throws up, I'm like, huh?
Yep. Yeah. So they get up to the door, and Keith is like, help me look for wires for the alarm system so I can disarm it. And Jimmy's like, okay, whatever, dude. And while they're searching, Calvin and his drunk ass just walks up and grabs the door handle, and it swings wide open. And I'm assuming it's the one that Babs unlocked. But they're all just kind of like, oh, okay.
Okay. Also, we don't have many malls, but what like mall do you know that has a bowling alley?
I think bigger city ones do.
Is it?
Yeah. That would be so loud though. So I don't know.
No.
I think it's a thing. It's just not like super
so,
common.
like it's always weird when they're like, yeah, let's go to the movie theater in the mall, and I'm like, why do you have a movie theater?
Yeah, I'm like, we have a Buckle.
Yeah.
And a shoe place.
Yeah.
There's like a Zoomies.
Yeah.
But we can do a photo booth.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah. That's what
let's
we
go
have.
to Barnes and Noble. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just sit there for 3 hours. So the group walks in and they find the bowling alley and they decide to split up and look for the trophy case.
Okay.
And Calvin walks one way and I think it's like the front register area of like a snack bar or something. But again, so dark.
Okay.
Cannot tell. And he sees a girl who's using a crowbar trying to open the register. This is the Scream Queen girl.
Okay. But she's just broken into the mall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so he goes, come here often? And she was like, she like holds up the crowbar because she gets scared. And she goes, you stay there, pal, or I'll knock you the fuck out. Like, that's how she talks the whole time. I swear to God. It is so bad.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then the rest of the gang kind of walks up behind him because they heard what was going on. And she was like, what is this? Some kind of midnight wimp bowling league? And he was like, well, I'm Calvin. And this is Lisa. And this is Taffy. And she was like, Taffy? What kind of a name is Taffy?
What kind of a voice is your voice?
Right.
Like...
Yeah. And she was like, well, what's wrong with Taffy? And the woman goes, well, if you don't know Taffy, then you deserve the name. Like, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Like, if you're too dumb to know your name is dumb, then you're dumb? Like, I don't understand.
Okay.
But okay, yeah, it was really weird. But then Calvin explains that they're in there doing the initiation and that they have to steal the bowling trophy. And she's like, oh, naughty, that's illegal. And I think it's Taffy who's like, what are you doing here? Mopping up? And she was like, yeah, and I'm just about done. So cut the shit and get out of here.
Okay.
Yeah. So everyone but Calvin kind of walks away and he stays there and he's like, you know, you really shouldn't be doing that. And she's like, yeah, well, times are tough, pal. And he's like, well, if you need any money, I could loan you $1. And like pulls $1 out of his pocket. And she's like, hey, shithead, I'm robbing the fucking place, okay? And then he was just like, okay, whatever. And then she like leans over and she goes, hey, man, are those fucking glasses for real?
No, they're fake glasses because
I
other
like
people
wearing super thick, awful nerd glasses. And it was just like, what is this dialogue? It was super weird. And then it cuts to a new scene. Like, it just like, that was the end of that conversation.
All right.
Yeah. So next we see Keith, who's trying to break into a section of the bowling alley, I'm guessing, but it's like those metal gate divider type situations that are locked. And he's trying to pick the lock with, I'm assuming, a bobby pin or something.
Yeah, because that works.
Yeah.
If you don't have a second tool.
Right?
So,
like,
not
maybe...
that I know how to do that.
No. I don't know how to pick locks at all. The girls are talking about how, like, they're like, maybe we shouldn't do this. Like, are we really going to steal a trophy? Like, we're going to break in and steal something? And Keith is like, well, we're just borrowing the trophy. We'll bring it back and drop it off anonymously. Like, it'll be totally fine. And he's still working on the lock, but he can't get it to open. And so the woman comes up from behind and breaks it open with a crowbar. And then she just goes, assholes, and walks away.
Thanks for your help, mysterious bitch.
Right?
Like...
Oh, evil one?
Yeah.
It was super weird.
But you go rob another fucking place.
Right?
Like...
So they walk in and they find a big trophy on the wall. And this trophy, like, for the story, it makes sense, but it was so weird. The base of it was like a huge round cylinder. And then, like, the trophy part was on top.
Okay.
But it had to have been, like, 10, 12 inches of, like, base.
Okay.
On this thing, okay? Jimmy picks out
those
that
are the
one.
ones that you give at like the ultimate like bowling championships.
I mean,
not at like your local mall.
Maybe it's like a New York mall or something.
Maybe.
I have no idea.
That's weird.
Yeah, but it was huge. So they find the big trophy and they start walking out, and their sorority sisters are sitting in the security room watching, and they're like, oh, they actually found a trophy. Like, now we need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And one of them's like, yeah, what are we going to do about that punk dyke? It's like, she's dressed like a biker chick, but like, okay. Aggressive.
How do you even know?
Right.
Second of all, what are you going to... do besides hop out and be like, yeah, swipe or no swiping? Like,
yeah. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
It was super weird. But Babs is like, oh, I can handle her. But like in a creepy way.
Okay, so you get your crowbar, she got her crowbar. Let's go like Hunger Games this out. I want to see that.
Or like, you know, going the other way with things.
Yo.
I don't know.
That would be the bad part.
So then in the next scene, we see the woman trying to break into an arcade game.
Mm-hmm. She's just trying to get money wherever she can.
Yeah,
Times
get all that loose change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because there's not, you know, a jewelry store probably in the...
Right? In the mall, like right over down the hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. We're going to rob the arcade. Sure.
Clearly there's no alarms going off or anything, so like...
You imagine taking home... Like, where was she going to put all those pennies?
I have no idea.
And quarters and shit.
Yeah, because back in the 80s they had like penny machines.
I'm sure
so, like,
they did, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think she had a purse or anything, so like, good luck, lady.
Yeah, stuff that leather jacket of yours, like...
Right?
Was she wearing a leather jacket?
I think she was, actually.
Okay.
I think she had like a leather jacket and a tank top and then like legging pants, maybe? I'm not exactly sure. It was very dark the whole time.
Do you have like a burlap sack you've got hidden around the
with
corner?
With a money sign on it. Yes. So Calvin comes up and he asks her name and she goes, "It's Spider."
No, it's not.
And he was like, "That's cool. What's your real name?" And she's like, "Spider." And then he was like, "Come on, no one's parents would name them Spider." And she goes, "I don't have any parents."
Yeah,
and he was like, "I'm sorry, can I ask what happened to them?" And she's like, "I ate them." I was like, "Okay, wounded bitch. Like, relax. Black Widow bitch."
Seriously, you go from like 0 to 1,000 in like 0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
So like,
it was a lot.
All right then.
Yeah. I didn't note it in here, but there's one point where he's like, "Is everything you say sarcasm? Like, what is your issue?" And she's like, "It's a lifestyle." Okay.
It's a coping mechanism. That's what that is. Like,
that's a trauma response. Yeah. That's what that is.
Maybe from eating her parents. So like.
Right? So at this point, the rest of the group walks up, and Jimmy's like, "Okay, Calvin, tell your little girlfriend good night. Ha ha ha." She walks over and hooks the crowbar behind Jimmy's neck and like pulls him down to her level a little bit. Uh-huh. And she was like, "You people really annoy me. Why don't you just leave the little jerk alone?" Okay. Great. Yeah, and then she goes, "Now get out of here and leave me alone, or I'll shove this trophy so far up the fat one's ass you'll see it every time he opens his mouth."
Okay.
Great. I'll have to show you like an actual clip of how she speaks because it's terrible. Terrible? Terrible.
That is
terrifying.
No. Yeah.
Jump back. Prom queen's on the loose, or is it high school hookers?
Well, this is Lisa, and this is Taffy.
Taffy? Jesus. What's the matter with Taffy? Oh. Well, if you don't know Taffy, you deserve the name.
So that's Spider. But after she says that, she hits Jimmy in the stomach and he like drops the trophy. Mm-hmm. And the gang starts to kind of like leave and they realize that the trophy is smoking. Okay?
Okay.
So stay with me.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
It gets real fucking weird after this.
Okay.
So it starts smoking.
Okay.
And we see a bunch of smoke coming out. And then from the bottom of the trophy comes the most gremlin, goblin, gargoyle, wishes he was a Jim Henson Labyrinth knockoff motherfucker I have ever seen in my life. What is that?
What is that?
That's an imp, my friend.
That's not an imp.
That's an imp.
What is that? That looks like it should be on like a Skittles commercial.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
What is it? What's with his teeth?
I don't know.
His ears.
Yeah, so he's got long pointy ears and he's like a little small gray goblin looking thing.
With these like a huge eyebrows but no brows. It's just the pronounced brow.
Bone, yeah.
And it's like
and a huge mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we're dealing with now.
Okay, all
Took a big old turn.
Yeah. Why was that hiding in a trophy?
We'll get there.
In a mall.
Yeah. So this thing emerges.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And he starts talking to the group and he's just like, "Hey guys." Like in a different universe, he would have been voiced by like Eddie Murphy or something. Oh, like he kind of has like a drawling like black person's voice for lack of a better term. Like he sounds very black.
Like more ghetto or like
not really ghetto, just like I don't even know how
Kevin
to explain
Hardy,
it. Yeah,
Eddie
kind of.
Murphy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Chris Rock could have voiced
Okay.
this guy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Stop it, you little prick.
Now, was that any way to talk to your good old Uncle Impy? And just when I was going to grant a wish to each and every one of you boys and girls.
Oh, no.
Oh, bitch, who are you kidding?
What kind of wish?
Why, any wish you want.
And his, like,
That's a
ears
sweet
move
man.
and his eyebrows move. And I'm like,
I hate
you,
him.
Jim Henson, wannabe puppet
he's the
bitch.
worst.
So he's just, like, talking to them and
He
whatever.
was like ghetto.
And they're all just kind of, like, staring at him because fucking obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he, like, snaps at them for staring. He's like, this isn't a freak show, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes it is.
Yes, it
That's
is.
exactly what this is. And then he was like, oh, I'm sorry. Uncle Impy's just a little cranky after being locked up in that trophy. It's like, Uncle Impy is
Yeah.
what we're going with
Yeah.
right now? Okay.
Okay.
That sounds like something for therapy.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And this is not a comedy.
No.
Okay.
I don't think it's supposed to be. Comedy horror. So I guess.
It's
But, like,
probably
I don't know if
comedy
it's supposed
because
to
they
be-
were like threw in a couple of jokes. That's
Yeah.
probably all it was.
Like, it's supposed to be funny, but it's not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like a full-blown comedy like House Shark. It's like, oh, here's a horror movie that we made a little funny.
Yeah.
Not a comedy that we decided to throw.
Make a little scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the girls is like, are you for real? And he's like, of course I'm real. Whatever. And then he comments on, like, how pretty Lisa and Taffy are. And Taffy looks at him like,
Oh, no, she does
like,
not.
thank you. I am pretty. And I was like, what? Like, Lisa is at least like, okay. Yeah. But she's just kind of like, oh.
Well, we know what Taffy's into now.
Right? Little gray goblin thingies. And then he comments on Spider's sour face. And she's like, stuff it, prick. Like, okay.
Okay.
Relax. And he's like, is that any way to treat your Uncle Impy? And then he's like, right when I was about to grant you all a wish, too. And everyone's kind of like,
What?
okay. And he's like, who sprung me from this bowling trophy? And Jimmy's like, well, I'm the one that picked the trophy out.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha, I want a wish. And he's like, well, you can wish for anything you want. And Calvin's like, dude, you should probably be careful because, like, I've heard a lot about wishes backfiring and, like, not meaning what you want them to mean and, like, things like that. And he's like, oh, shut up. Like, I'm going to make a wish.
Uh-huh.
You're like, okay, dude.
Okay.
He warned you for a
You
reason.
need like 6 lawyers for that kind of shit. I played enough D&D.
Right?
Like,
I know how wishes work.
yeah.
Jessica. So Jimmy doesn't listen, and he's like, I'm gonna wish for gold. Lots of gold. Like a whole pile of gold. And back behind him, in like a spotlight, appears a stack of gold.
Uh-huh.
And so he goes back and he's like, I'm gonna get my nails done. I'm gonna get my hair done. I'm gonna buy a Porsche. No, 100 Porsches. And it's just like going
I
crazy.
don't know if gold would be that much to get you.
Right. I mean, there was like a stack of gold bricks.
Okay.
So maybe.
All right.
And then meanwhile, the girls in the security room are like watching this and are blown away. And they're like, what is happening down there? Like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah.
And then Uncle Impy turns to Keith. And he's like, I think I know what you want for your wish. And Keith is like, okay. And he like gestures for him to lean in close. And he's like, I bet you want to pork that girl in the sweater, don't you? You just want to pork her so bad, but she doesn't want you. Don't you want to pork her? I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, that's for me. I'm like, that's a weird way to respond to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, wish granted. Lisa is suddenly gone and then back behind them in the spotlight, and she's wearing like a black bra and panty set.
Okay.
And she's like touching herself, and then she's like touching him, and like is in love with this guy now.
Okay.
In lust with this guy.
See, at least that makes sense. That was understandable for me to be in.
Bra and panties make sense there.
Yes.
For sure.
Uh-huh.
So she's all over Keith, and he's like, we're just gonna go to this room over here, guys. Bye. And so they walk out, and then Calvin's talking to Spider, and he's like, I have a bad feeling about this. Like, I think I want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And Impy's like, no one leaves yet. And then we see an image of the front doors, like we're looking from the inside, and there's like lightning bolts that like streak at the doors. So you're like, that means something, I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, whatever it means.
Cool.
Means nothing to
Right
me.
now,
Okay,
yeah. A little later, but at first I was like, what?
What? Okay.
Okay. So from there we flash back to the custodian, and he's still stuck in this closet. And this phrase I hate so much. I'm not going to say it all, but you'll know what I mean. He's trying the door, And he says, man, this door is stuck tighter than a nun's lady bits.
Okay.
Cheeky C, if you know what I mean. So he's stuck in there, and
But how would that be stuck tighter than a nun's? Are they stuck?
No, she just doesn't use one.
But then why would...
I don't know. It was supposed to be crass humor, I guess. Yeah.
It just makes no sense, is all I'm saying.
I know. I know.
If he wanted to say it's stuck tighter than a nun's legs, that's funny.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
That's funny.
But
that
yeah,
makes sense.
Not the bits.
No.
Yeah.
That was dumb. Anyway.
You should be a writer.
Thank you.
I looked up this guy because I wasn't sure if he was familiar or not.
Uh-huh.
And he's like this heavier guy with like a hillbilly type accent. And in like everything he's ever played, he was like homeless man, drunken man, man on the street. Like
he's just
hobo. Yeah.
Okay.
Like he's just that type.
Okay.
So
he's just janitor in this movie?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Pretty sure he was just like the custodian or whatever. But he keeps trying the door and he can't get out. And he's like, okay, well, there's nobody here. So I can't start panicking because no one's going to hear me. And then he like starts freaking out and like pounding on the door. And he's like, let me out of here. And, you know, and then it goes to Lisa and Keith. Who are now on the floor in the locker room.
Okay.
And Lisa is sitting on top of him with her hands going all over him, putting his hands on her chest and like just going nuts, right?
Okay.
And the whole time he's like, okay, but like, wait a minute, like, hold on, we got to talk about this. Like, whoa, slow down. And I'm like, did you want it or not?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Clearly you're all talk.
Right? I mean, if that's his first time, though,
Yeah.
woof.
Woof.
Yeah. So then we go back to Uncle Impy. And he goes up to Taffy and he's like, all right, well, what do you want to wish for? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, yeah, there's just so many possibilities of things you could wish for. And then he's like, well, how about this? Because you're so pretty, I'll give you one wish now and one wish later. Just don't tell the others. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, well, what's something that you've always wanted? Oh, no, wait, let me go back. So he says she can have one wish now and one wish later. And she goes, can I? And he's like, would I lie to you? I'm like, I don't know, you fucking goblin thing.
Like...
I don't know. Okay. So he asks her what she's always wanted. And she was like, well, I wanted to be queen of the prom. And he was like, and you didn't get your way? And she was like, no. And so she flashes away and then shows up like dancing behind them in a prom dress and a crown. Okay. And she's just back there like spinning and dancing like she's in a weird dream or something.
I was queen of a dance and it was stupid.
Yeah, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
It wasn't that cool.
Popularity contest bullshit.
Dad.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Oh, mine was where, like, my friends nominated me as a joke, and then to vote for who you thought deserved to be the royalty, they had jars in the office, and you went and put money in. And my dad heard, and he thought it would be so funny, so he brought in his change jar.
Oh, no.
And I beat everybody by, like, $35. And I was like, thanks, Dad.
Dad?
I had, like, 3 friends that were like, hey, Alyssa, I need something for lunch. Can I borrow $5? I was like, yeah, here's $5. They went and put it in the jar.
Rude.
Like, you bitches.
Rude.
You heard that, friends? You bitches. I had to go to that stupid dance. It was fun with John, though. Thanks, Fluffy.
Okay, so she's like spinning and dancing in the background. And the imp is like, oh, baby, you're beautiful. You look great. And she's like, am I really? And she's just like taking it all in, whatever. And Spider goes, am I really? Am I really? I'm leaving.
Okay, Spider.
Okay, please do. She's like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Oh,
like, bye, bitch. The imp is like, well, you can go ahead, but you'll be sorry. Like, I'm gonna give your wishes away. Whatever, you know.
I
and
wish
she
for
walks
you to
away.
no longer exist. How about that?
Right?
Like,
That'd be
that'd
a great
be my
wish. Yeah. Calvin walks away too, and so Taffy is just like spinning and dancing in the background, and Jimmy's just like going through his pile of gold. Uh-huh. And then the imp sees the security camera up on the wall, and I'm guessing he knows that the girls are watching him.
It's magic.
Yeah. And he's like, oh no, peepers, like, come out wherever you are. And then it shows them sitting there, and there's like a gust of magic that comes through the screen that they're watching. And Babs like backs up and stands up. So I guess it doesn't affect her. But the other 2 girls are like groaning and panting and like gasping for breath, and like the screen is like flashing different filters so you know that something is happening. Uh-huh. And then it goes back to Babs, who is freaking out, and then back to them, and Frankie has turned into the Bride of Frankenstein. Oh. So she has the long crazy hair, which is I think why they played up her hair so much.
Okay.
And the white dress. And then Rhonda is like a zombie, I guess.
Okay.
But I couldn't really see too much, but her skin was affected. So she had like green, gross, nasty skin kind of a thing. So that happens.
Babs would have turned into like a literal devil, and then the imp would have had like an actual problem on his hands.
That's so true.
Good job, Babs.
Maybe he did that. He was like, you back up.
Yep.
You stay.
Yeah. Like, you can be a problem, I'm certain. So.
Yes. So right after that scene, it goes back out into the hallway, and the custodian has just gotten the door open. And as he's pushing the door open, Babs runs out freaked out and slams into his door, pushing it closed. Like, this poor dude. And she starts like frantically running through the mall toward the front doors. And so she runs past, and then Calvin and Spider kind of like walk out from a side hallway, and he's like, Babs? Like, what the fuck are you doing here? And so they kind of start following her, and she runs up to the front doors, and then it like does a flashback to the imp where he's like, oh no, you can't leave, not another party pooper. And she grabs the door handles and gets electrocuted and knocked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just knocked out, not dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Calvin and Spider see this, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to go back to the group and figure something else out. And so we see Taffy, who's still spinning and dancing, but now her dress is all tattered and torn.
Okay.
And Jimmy is holding up his pile of gold, but it's just painted pieces of wood. And they're like, wait a minute, like, what happened to my dress? What happened to my gold? Like, what the fuck is happening here? And this is where everything starts to backfire. But what we learn later, and I'm just going to mention it now so I don't forget, is that Lisa's spell doesn't wear off or change, which I think is really strange.
That's really weird.
Yeah. They just really wanted her to have sex, I guess.
Yeah.
And be naked.
Maybe she was like secretly in love with him and was like really actually wanting this.
Maybe. She was like, I'm going to keep playing it
Yeah,
out.
and she was like, you know what?
We're already here. Let's go through with it.
I'm going to, let's do this. Like,
yeah.
Maybe she just needed that little push.
Right.
So, or maybe he was like, no, I'm going to keep that one going.
Let's let that play out,
Yep.
shall we? This poor guy deserves it.
Yep. I'm going to kill them all anyway, so why not?
Might as well.
Might as well.
So they're yelling at the imp about their wishes, and Rhonda comes up with her zombie face and starts attacking Jimmy. And then Spider comes out from the other direction, and she hits Rhonda, or she tries to hit Rhonda with a crowbar, but Rhonda catches it and then like bends it in half. So you're like, oh, they're extra strong now.
All right.
Okay. Cool. Frankie comes up behind Spider and grabs her, but then Spider is able to like punch her out, so she falls to the ground, and the group runs off. And we see Jimmy.
So they'd all be fucked without Spider.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, the whole situation probably wouldn't have happened without Spider.
That is
because she's the one who hit Jimmy and knocked.
That's true. If they hadn't dropped it, he would have just lived in that trophy forever.
It's true.
Fucking Spider.
Fucking
bitch. So Jimmy runs off on his own, and we see him get tripped by the imp, who just like sticks out his arm and like trips him.
Do you think the Slimeball part of the Slimeball part of the movie title is the imp is a slime ball?
Either that or like the dudes, maybe.
Maybe.
Because they were slime balls for like looking and peeping. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Anyway.
Yeah. So he gets tripped, and then we flash over to Spider and Calvin, who run up to the front door, and he's like, well, what if it still does that? Like, we saw what it does. And so she just kind of touched it, and it still like zaps her. And so she's like, okay, not doing that. They hear Jimmy yelling, and so they run off to find him. And Rhonda and Frankie have caught up to him. And they stick his head, I think, in like a freezer or something that closes. So like a drawer, a cupboard, something.
Okay.
Yeah. And they pull his head off.
Oh.
So there you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Poor Jimmy.
Yep.
You slime ball.
And then after watching that, Calvin and Spider run away, obviously.
Oh, yeah?
And then we flash back to Keith, and we just see him trying to like crawl away from Lisa, but she pulls him back, and she climbs back on top of him and starts to take off her bra and her stockings and stuff. And he's like, wait, we're going a little bit too fast. And she was like, we're not going fast enough. She takes off his shoe and puts his socked foot in her mouth. That's not sexy.
No.
That causes me pain.
Yes.
I hate that so much. It was disgusting.
Ooh, I don't like that at all.
Me either, don't worry.
That's not sexy or kinky or anything.
No.
If you're into that, I do judge you.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry.
Feet are one thing, but socked feet?
Socked feet?
In your mouth? Get out of town. Right the fuck now. Yeah.
I'm calling the police.
911, excuse me, hello.
I am offended.
Emergency. This is an emergency.
Why? This is something people should take actual offense on.
Yes. Yeah, for real. So we show Rhonda, who is in like the actual bowling alley, and she's got Jimmy's head in her hand. And the imp does a voiceover, and he's like, oh, she's walking up to the lane. Look at that little fanny wiggle as she rolls his head down the lane as a bowling ball.
Okay.
And it just kind of like rolls, and like, oh, it's a gutter head. It didn't make it all the way down. I was like, what are we doing? Oh my gosh. So she bowls with his head. Pretty cool. And then Calvin and Spider are running through the mall, and he's like trying not to puke as she drags him along. And she pushes him into this room or a closet, and she like yells at him, keep the noise down. Okay. Productive. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So she closes the door and then starts stacking boxes in front of the door, but they are obviously empty cardboard boxes because it's like above her head stacking.
Then it's not gonna do shit. I don't understand.
Yeah. And then we see Frankie, who's like walking around the mall calling and looking for Taffy. Okay. But like, whatever happened when she turned into the Bride of Frankenstein fucked with her voice, because she's like, Taffy, come out, Taffy. Like, that's how she talks the whole time.
Okay.
And I hated it a lot. So she finally finds Taffy, and their struggle consists of Taffy holding up a metal bar between her hands, and Frankie just like grabs it with one hand while she hisses like a cat, like hisses and cackles at her.
Okay.
The entire time. Like, doesn't stop cackling and hissing. Okay?
Okay.
Yep. And then she's like, you'll never be a sorority sister now, Taffy. Like, why is that the spooky voice you're going for?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
That's not the voice.
No.
That's
that ain't it.
That's
sorry. But yeah.
If any of you ever want to be in a movie,
that ain't it.
That ain't it.
No. Somehow Taffy gets Frankie down on the ground and starts beating her with the metal bar that she has. And she like lays there still, and so she goes to check her, and she like reaches up and grabs her ankle, and she's like, that wasn't very nice, Taffy. It's like, okay. Yeah. And then Taffy's like, why won't you die? Why won't you die? And she's like, maybe I'm already dead. Oh, okay.
Also, this is a person you know, and you're like, die! Like, I mean, yeah, you're coming at me, but I would assume, the gold bricks were pieces of wood, and whatever dress is, I would assume that she can probably go back to normal.
You would think.
Like, you would think.
No, kill them all. No. So we flash...
Bad friends.
Yes. We flash back to Keith and Lisa, who are still in this struggle, and I'm like, this is a long time. But she's still on top of him, and he's like, I think that the only reason you're doing this is because you're under a spell. And she's like, well, what does that matter? And he goes, I think it matters to me, and I think it would matter to you if you were you. You know what I mean? Like, it's all this spell. And she's like, oh, who cares? Ha ha ha. And then it goes back to Spider and Calvin, and Rhonda is trying to break into their little closet, and Spider is like, well, find me a weapon. And she just kind of like stands there with her hands out, and Calvin grabs a broom and hands it to her, and she's like, what am I gonna do? Sweep her to death? Clean her to death? Or something like that. And he's just like, find something else, and just stands there. I'm like, bitch, look your damn self.
Yeah, look yourself.
Why are you being this damsel now?
If you're the one who's decided you want a weapon, you need to decide what is your good enough of a weapon. If that's not good enough for you, exactly. Find your own damn weapon.
Yeah. So he finds a gun. Because of course he does. Yeah. Sure. In a mall, in a closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you have a gun in a mall closet?
Yeah.
That's just a smart thing to do.
I would think so.
In an easily accessible closet.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he hands her this gun right as Rhonda is breaking through the door and her strong wall of cardboard boxes.
Yes.
And Spider shoots Rhonda, and she like falls back. But Spider's like, you need to look for more bullets. And then Rhonda gets up again, and she's like, what does it take? And she shoots her again, and so she falls back. But that's the only bullet left, and there's like no more. So there were only 2 bullets in the gun.
This is like a bad video game.
Yeah, for real. So they run off while she's down. Then we're back to Keith and Lisa.
Okay.
And he's like, I'm going to go get a drink of water. And she's like, at a time like this, why do you need a drink of water? Like, all over him, you know. And he's like, I mean, ice cubes. Have you ever done the ice cube trick? Have you ever done that before? And she was like, no, what's the ice cube trick? And so he like wanders off. And then we flash back to the custodian who has just gotten out of the closet again. And I just don't like his lines, okay? So as he's closing the closet door, he like his hand is holding the door and he slams his hand in the door. Okay, and he's like, oh, damn it. That finger's going to be bigger than a donkey's dick come tomorrow. And then he says, I'm going to have to learn to scratch my balls with my other hand. Good thing I love my job. What?
What?
Why? Who thought of that?
None of that made
Why would you
any
put it in a movie?
sense.
Gross.
I hate that.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Me also, too.
And again, I can take a joke. That's not funny.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So then, this didn't make sense to me.
Okay.
So last we saw, Rhonda was shot and they ran off. So we would assume she was running after them, right? But no. We see her in front of a mirror putting makeup on her zombie face.
Okay.
And there's been a couple times where they like mentioned her compact and her makeup and whatever, right? She was like, oh, this skin is just never going to clear up. I'm like, so are you a demon or are you still yourself?
Yeah.
Or, like, what are we playing off of
Yeah.
here? I'm not exactly sure. Okay.
Does that run that deep in you that,
Right.
like...
It comes out even in this state.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just weird. And I was like, okay, so you just gave up on chasing these people down so you could take a makeup break? Like, okay.
Okay.
Then we see Keith, who is walking through, like, the kitchen of the snack bar, and I'm assuming he maybe is looking for ice for real, or looking for people, I'm not sure. But he hears a woman's voice off in the distance, and he's like, Lisa? Like, did you follow me, Lisa? But Rhonda shows up, and I think she sticks his face in the fryer.
Oh.
Because it, like, starts smoking and sizzling, so it's either that or, like, the stove. But it, like, flashes to the imp, and he's, like, laughing, and he says something to the effect of, like, ooh, deep-fried critter, or something like that. Or, like, fried face. I don't know exactly, but he says something, so I think he got his head in a fryer.
Okay.
So he died.
Well, I want to see Lisa show up and be like, you bitch, that was my man.
Oh, no.
And then, like, go after Rhonda. And shit.
Right.
Or Frankie. It was Frankie, right? Yeah. Frankie.
And then it shows Calvin and Spider, who are hiding in a bathroom. They're, like, sitting against a wall in the bathroom. And she starts cracking her knuckles, and he's like, can you stop doing that? Like, I really don't like that sound. It creeps me out. And she's just like, ugh, whatever. And then she pulls out a cigarette and lights it. And he's like, you know, you really shouldn't do that either. It's not good for you. And she goes, what are you, my mother? God damn it. How the fuck did I get stuck with you?
Okay.
Oh, bye. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then she talks about, like, finding weapons, and she's like, maybe there's knives in the snack bar that we can use. And he's like, okay, but we shot her, and that didn't do anything. So what's a knife gonna do? And she's like, well, we have to at least try. Like, we have to find something.
And she's not wrong, but at the same time.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, after that conversation, she's quiet for a moment, and then it transitions to a new conversation, which is just, like, one of those other weird things.
Where, like, they were waiting to probably have, like, a cut scene,
Yeah.
and then, okay, now continue your conversation, like,
Yeah.
and go. Like,
So she, like, laughs to herself, and he's like, what? And she was like, I was just thinking of when you first saw me, and you said, do you come here often? And he was like, yeah, Jimmy told me I should use that line on girls, but it's kind of stupid. And she's like, yeah, very stupid. But then she kind of, like, smiles to herself. I'm like,
okay,
no.
But it worked then.
Yeah,
so, like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, we're having a moment now in the men's bathroom when you're running from death.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Ugh.
I mean, these kind of, you know, situations, I think people are like, oh, let's fall in love.
That's
now.
called
Like,
trauma bonding.
Yes.
We don't do that. Okay? Okay? Take notes. We don't do that.
But the best love stories always come from shit like this.
Yeah.
From little imps and Frankenstein monsters. And,
Yeah. The
Yeah.
demon bitches.
yep.
So then we see Taffy, who comes into the snack bar and comes across Keith. And his head is kind of down. He's, like, sitting in a booth and his head is down. And so she's like, oh, Keith, where's everybody else? Like, what's going on? Because she doesn't realize he's dead.
Yeah.
But then she, like, grabs his face and, like, lifts it up so she can see. And she realizes that he's all fried up or whatever. And then Frankie and Rhonda come up and grab her. And one has her under the arms and the other one has her by the legs. And, like, it keeps going back and forth between, like, them trying to pull her apart And, like, the imp laughing about it. And them pulling, and the imp. And, like, it's never the imp with anyone else. He is never seen in a scene with someone else. It's always, like, the imp, them. The imp, them. And it was, like, super weird. Like,
just this little puppet over here off to the side. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the girls pull her, or start pulling her apart. And then we flash to see that now Babs is awake from being electrocuted.
Okay.
And she starts running through the mall, and she comes across what I assume is Jimmy's body, but you can't really see. It's just like a body. So I'm like, I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
And she freaks out, and she's like, oh God, oh why? Oh, and she's like running around, and she goes back like behind the bowling lanes, like where all the pins and stuff are. And she, like, sits up against a wall and is just like, oh, God. Oh, no. Like, doing the most fake, awful sobbing ever. And also, the wall behind her is, like, plywood with chicken wire. I don't know why chicken wire is so prominent in the 80s, but it was. And she is sitting with her back to the wall, but then has her hands up by her head in the chicken wire at all times. So she's just, like, clutching at this chicken wire. I was like, that's the most awkward pose ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not even grabbing her own head. She's just grabbing it. Like, she's not even turned and, like, clutching it. Like,
no, just behind her head.
All right.
Yeah. So the imp shows up back where she is. And he is like, oh, you didn't end up leaving as soon as you thought you would. Ha, ha, ha. And she's like, damn you, imp. And he's like, already done, I'm afraid. Yeah, what? We get it. That you're like a demon thing.
Sure, whatever. Get out of here.
Yeah. So he explains that he's an imp with all these magical powers and capabilities. And she's like, what did you do with Rhonda and Frankie? And he's like, well, I turned them into demons. And they, like, have these incredible strength, kind of powers. But they don't have magical powers like me. And then she's like, you need to stop what you're doing. And he's like, nope, I'm going to teach a nasty girl a nasty lesson. I'm like, okay. Yeah, so she tries to run away, but then Rhonda shows up and attacks her. So we flash over to Calvin and Spider, and they are walking into the snack bar to look for knives or weapons or whatever. And as they're walking in, Spider's like, oh, yep, there's the rest of her. So I'm like, I guess they found both parts of Taffy?
Okay.
I guess. Okay.
But they just cut out that scene of them finding the other part?
Yeah,
right.
I guess they were like, we don't need to add that in. We'll just say they found both of them. It'll be fine. Yeah. So Spider starts going through all the drawers, but she can't find any knives. She's like, there's nothing in here but plastic forks, and, like, gets all upset. And she's like, she pulls out something else, and I could not see what it was, but later it looks like it's a steak. Like vampire steak.
Wooden steak. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And I guess I should have mentioned, I forgot to write it down, earlier when they first got to the mall, the guys were like, ooh, it's all spooky, girls, ha ha ha, and one of them, I think it's Taffy, is like, you do that again, I'm gonna drive a stake through your heart. And he was like, I was just kidding. And she's like, well, I wasn't. So I think that ties in, I guess. I don't know.
All right.
If it's a steak, I could not tell.
It's the 80s. Weren't you finding steaks all over the place?
In the snack bar? Yeah,
all over the place.
Definitely.
It's like a video game.
Yeah, just like leaving stuff everywhere. Yeah.
It's like finding money in a trash can.
So now they have this weapon. And then I guess they hear the commotion coming from Babs, who is fighting off Frankie, because they run into the bowling alley. Or no, she's fighting off Rhonda, sorry. And falls down, like, onto one of the actual bowling lanes. So Babs grabs a bowling ball and rolls it at her head. And instead of getting up, because you definitely have time to get up off the lane, she just goes, no, like, as the ball is rolling toward her, and smashes her in the head.
All right. Well, I mean, a little bit in her defense, I have slipped on a bowling lane before.
That is true.
And they keep that thing
slick.
Very slick.
You go down.
But if they're not even showing her, like, attempting to get up and slipping.
Or, like, roll away. Yeah, no.
Something.
No. Yeah.
It is capable to roll on that, since that is what the ball's sole purpose does on that. So.
Yes. So they're like, oh, is she dead? And they, like, go to check her, and she doesn't, like, respond or attack them, and she doesn't have a pulse, apparently.
Okay.
So Spider's like, I think she's dead. And Babs from behind hears this, behind the alley, and she starts laughing. And she's like, she's dead. You see, we can beat you. And the imp is like, that's okay. I can just have you take her place.
All right.
Yeah. So Calvin and Spider hear Babs laughing, and they're like, who is that back there? And so they go to check it out, but when they get back there, she's gone.
Uh-huh.
So they walk away, apparently, and they come up on the janitor's closet, and they decide to look inside, and they find the janitor in there sleeping.
He put himself back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Spider, like, tries to wake him up, and, like, he doesn't respond at first, and she's like, wake up, you old fuck. That's a nice way to wake up a stranger.
Yeah.
Rude. Okay. And this scene went on for so long because apparently he has a hearing aid and he can't hear very well. So they kept like repeating everything they said like 2 or 3 times. And I was just like, we get it.
We get it.
Can we not do this?
Oh,
so,
right.
yeah. So they wake him up and he's like, you're not supposed to be in here. We're closed. And she's like, no shit, you dick. Like,
Okay,
man, yeah.
Spider. Okay, we
calm
get it.
down. Yeah. And then Calvin is like, okay, well, we're trapped in here and there's a demon murdering my friends. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you know, kids, drugs are not the answer. You should do like the TV says and say no to drugs. They're like, okay,
funny.
but it was a good one. And he's like, no, seriously, like, we were trying to steal this bowling alley trophy and then it got dropped and it opened up. And he's like, oh no, you done let the imp out. And they're like, you know about this?
Knows. Okay.
Yeah.
And they didn't at any time think, you know, this should probably be put in a safe somewhere where no one can ever reach?
No. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, I know about it. He's been in there for 30 years and I've been here for just about that long. And then he talks about this guy who used to come bowling all the time, but he wasn't very good, so he got made fun of. And then one time, like, you know, a week later or whatever, he came in and he bowled a perfect game. And he even won the league tournament that year. And that's when all the terrible things started happening because anyone who made fun of this guy ended up dead.
Okay.
Like, terribly, disgustingly dead.
Okay.
And basically he says that, like, this guy tried to use the imp to be better at bowling, but then the imp went a little too far and started killing all these people. It was just so dumb. So this is the part of the conversation that I hated. But it was funny, but, like, it went on too long. So Spider goes, yeah, that's enough, Pops. And he's like, yeah, they did call the cops, but, you know, that's whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, that sounds like an awful mess. And he goes, nope, he never did confess, but he did end up going to jail. And then she was like, that's the dumbest story I ever heard. And he's like, no, it wasn't a bird. It was an imp, I said. I was like, oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah. At the end of their long-ass conversation, Spider was like, okay, stay here, lock the door, and listen for us, okay? And he was like, what was that? I didn't hear you. And she's like, stay here, lock the door, and listen for us. And then we're going to find that imp and shove his ass back in the trophy or whatever. And he's like, well, I didn't catch any of that, but I'm going to stay here, lock the door, and listen for you. And you just get that little imp and you shove his ass back in the trophy. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. So Calvin asks how the imp got stuck in the trophy, and he says that the guy, the bowler, trapped him in there, and he lost his powers because he loses his powers when he's locked up. And he's like, just like old King Solomon did when he locked up all the genies in the story. I was like, I don't know what that is. Is that a Bible thing? King Solomon?
King Solomon is a Bible thing, but I didn't know.
Genies in the Bible?
I don't know.
I'm not religious, I'm sorry.
I didn't grow up Catholic or anything, so like...
So let us know.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll Google it, but probably not.
Maybe he didn't mean King Solomon. Maybe he meant someone. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Idea. But Calvin's like, okay, so what do we do now? And he's like, well, you got to trap him like the last guy did. And then he like makes a comment about like, or you could try to use the magic against itself, but I don't know how you would do that. And you're like, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So they decide to go off and find the imp now that they kind of know what they're dealing with. And we see them sneaking through the halls, and they decide to open this door, and Frankie jumps out, and she like claws at Calvin's shoulder, and it hurts him and makes him drop the stake or whatever weapon he was holding. So she picks it up, and they like close the door and run off. And they go back to the storage closet they were in because Spider saw a first aid kit in there. We flash back to Lisa, who has been like naked waiting on the floor for Keith this whole time.
Just like, hi, when you're welcome back.
Yeah. And we see her like from the camera's point of view, like walking through. And she's like, oh, Keith, is that you? But you obviously know it's not Keith.
Yeah.
And we see a finger like turn the light off. And Babs walks up and she's like, it's time to finish that initiation. She starts talking real weird too.
Oh no.
And we see that Babs has like this crazy blonde wig on that's like super poofy up top and long. And it reminds me of like an old horror movie woman, but I'm not sure who it's supposed to be. Like Elvira, you know, like Monster. It's one of those like horror women, but I'm not sure exactly who because her hair was blonde. And I don't know what blonde. Maybe you guys can help out. I don't know. But so she has that wig.
Okay.
And then she also has like a dominatrix outfit. So she's got like the black outfit with like a long flowy like capey thing. And then she has a giant paddle and a whip.
Okay.
So, and then like in the middle of all this, it like flashes over to the imp and like the bowling lanes, and he makes a joke about how old Lumpy Face isn't there anymore. So apparently Rhonda got up at some point from after being hit in the head because she's not there. And I was like, thank you for that exposition, sir. So Spider helps Calvin out with his injury and wakes him up because he had passed out. And she tells him that she found a bottle of alcohol while he was passed out. And she's like, well, if we can't shoot the demons, we can light them on fire. And so she like made a Molotov cocktail out of it. And she was like, we only have one bottle. So you're going to light it and I'm going to throw. We only have one chance. You got it? He's like, okay. Great.
I'm saying if you should maybe try to find some other bottles and you just pour it into them more and then you make more Molotov cocktails. But anyway, that's, just me.
That's
my
logic.
Zombie survival.
Yeah. So they walk out to go exploring, and Babs comes up behind Spider and puts her whip around her neck. And the girls start fighting, and Spider gets shoved to the floor, and Babs steps on her arm, and she drops the bottle. So she's like, Calvin, the bottle! And so he like starts to grab it, and Babs pushes him off. Spider gets up off the floor, and she sees that Calvin grabbed the bottle and is starting to light it. So she starts like laughing, and Babs is like, are you starting to enjoy this as much as I am? And she's like, not as much as I will be in a second. And Babs is like, oh yeah? And she goes, yeah, Babs. Okay. And so he lights the bottle and throws it.
Does she know who Babs is then? Did they say
he said her name at some point. Remember when she ran by and he was like, Babs?
Oh, I guess
what the fuck are you doing in here? Yeah.
But I don't know if I would like remember their name. Like, there's people that I've like met at work that I'm like, I've seen you working here for like 3 weeks now. Who are you? Yeah. Like, I see you every day. I don't know your name.
Yep. So he throws the bottle at her and she bursts into flame and is like, I'm melting,
What a world.
Yes. What a world. And then we see Frankie, who finds the custodian in his office, and she like raises the stake up above her head to stab him. And as she's doing that, he goes, that goddamn fucking imp. So that was his last words.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just so weird.
All right.
And then we go back to Calvin and Spider, who are in the locker room, and Calvin's like, well, I found Lisa over there dead. So she's dead.
She's dead. Okay.
Yeah. And Spider got hurt in the shuffle with Babs. But she's like, I'm fine. We don't need to worry about me right now. We need to find that old man and get out of here. And then he's like, well, first we need to deal with that imp. And she's like, we'll just stuff that bastard back into the trophy. It'll be no big deal.
How do you plan on doing that? Grabbing him and shoving him in there? Like,
right?
I feel like there's got to be some magic involved in that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, Calvin, the next line is Calvin says that the original guy must have done some crazy black magic to get the imp back in there. And she goes, I don't know, and I don't care. Let's just fucking do it. Like, you should care.
You should care.
Yeah, you should.
You should. Yep.
You should figure it out. Yeah, it was dumb.
That is a conversation that you maybe need to like stop for a few seconds to be like,
what are we doing?
How are we gonna do this?
Yeah.
Like,
so they walk off to find the janitor, and they see that his door is open, and she's like, he didn't fucking lock the door like I told him to. And they open the door, and they see Frankie standing up over his dead body, holding the stake. Okay? Or whatever that weapon was. They close the door and run away, but Frankie opens the door to chase after them, but now she's holding a hatchet.
Okay.
So I don't know, she just swapped out weapons there. And she's hissing the whole time. She's just like as she runs with this hatchet. Okay? And it's like down a stairwell, down a hall. She's chasing them across the mall. Like this whole time. It was so bizarre.
That rhymed.
Yeah. And so she's chasing them, and then they get to like the front doors area, and Spider like turns around and starts fighting with her, and she like grabs the hatchet, and it's back and forth. And Tony pointed out to me, there is no background music while this is happening. It's just like them like shuffle, scuffle. Like it was super weird, and I was like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
And like most of the time in the movie, it's just like a little bit of like synthy piano, but like no real background music.
Okay.
I was like, that doesn't help. That makes it more weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're fighting, and Spider is able to get the axe away from Frankie and just like lobs her fucking head off, okay?
Oh.
And it goes flying across the room and through the front doors and breaks the seal.
Oh.
And he like makes a comment about using the magic against itself.
Oh.
Like, okay.
Okay, I don't know if that's entirely what that meant.
No. So Spider tells Calvin to run out and get the car. So he runs outside because he can go out through the doors now.
Yeah.
And conveniently, he either has the keys or the keys were left in the car because Keith was driving on the way over.
The 80s, you could leave your keys in your car.
I know, right? He starts the car, and Rhonda pops out of the back seat and starts like choking him from behind.
Okay.
And he isn't able to stop the car, and he's like flipping out and whatever. And the car ends up flipping and crashing.
Oh.
Yeah. And it like flashes over to the imp who's like, there's no way out except for dying. Ha 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 ha. Yep. So Spider comes up behind him with this big tin canister and traps him. So she like puts it up over his whole body.
Good job.
Yeah. And then she runs outside to see the car flipped over, and Calvin is kind of like trying to climb out. And she pulls him out and helps him, and she's like being all gentle with him and stuff, you know. And he asks about the imp, and she's like, yeah, he's over there in that canister. And then it like flips over to her sitting on her motorcycle, and she explains that Rhonda only stopped choking him because the imp got trapped, and so his powers stopped.
Okay.
And she's like, we need to get out of here before the cops show up, and we have to explain these 8 mutilated dead bodies, you know. And he's like, yeah, I guess. And she's like, so come on, you coming with me or not? And he's like, well, where are we going? And she has him lean over. She takes off his glasses and says she's going back. They're going back to her place.
Okay.
Like, oh, okay.
That does not get me in the mood.
No.
Like,
yeah. He then climbs onto...
especially the phrase 8 mutilated corpses.
Love it.
Ooh, gets my engine revving. Like,
yeah. He then gets on the back of her motorcycle, and she drives away. And it pans over to the canister that's just like sitting on the curb. And you can hear the imp like knocking and yelling from inside. And he's like, you gotta let me out. I can't be trapped in here, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, you in the front row. You want a wish? And then that's the end.
oh, so they thought this was going to theaters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it did. I think there's another one.
There's another one?
I want to say there's another one.
Oh, no.
I could be wrong.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Apparently this is like one of the like cult classic type movies. Like people love it because it's terrible. But like I just got so angry with the way Spider talked. Like it just is so painful to me. I don't know if I said this before, but it has 5 stars on IMDb. So it's, you know, middle ground.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's painful.
Yeah.
But
it's free on YouTube?
It's free on YouTube.
All right.
And like I went through the comments after I watched it, and there were a couple that were like, these parts of the video were the best, and it like shows the timestamp. And when you click on it, it's the times the women got undressed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, thank you for that.
Yep.
That's very nice. So
Also, it makes me sad that they killed Lisa when she was kind of one of them now.
Yeah,
like,
true.
'cause she was still kind of under their spell, so isn't she on their side? Like,
I don't know.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Lisa
Yeah.
looked like she was 40, though.
Yeah, she did. I don't, like, that was such a twist of, like, sorority movie into, like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
It was so weird. So weird.
So very weird.
So, I mean, if you're prepared to watch it and you know what you're getting into,
Yeah.
sure. But otherwise, like,
Don't.
Okay. Like, the
Okay.
name is great. That's about it. Like, there's no soundtrack except for, you know, raccoons running over a synth piano. So, yeah.
What do you rate it?
Honestly, like a 3,
Yeah.
maybe. I did not like it. at all.
That's great.
Yeah. So, I don't know. If you guys have seen it, I've never heard of this before.
Me either.
But let us know what you think. If you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, do you want to see it? Like, what are your thoughts? We'd love to hear it.
It's another one of those, maybe get drunk and have fun while you watch.
Yeah. Like, yeah. If that's what you're looking for, then sure. But yeah, hope you guys had fun.
Thanks.
Check out our YouTube and our podcast platforms and leave comments and likes and ratings and all those fun things. And we will love you forever.
And we'll be back next week with more trash.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Bye-bye.